Hey, again, good evening, everybody. First, let me apologize for the technical difficulty we had, and therefore we had to start a little late today. I hope you all can actually hear us now. Please find some way to let us know if you can't. Anyway, I do want to start by the District 7 Town Hall meeting. We are co-hosting this meeting tonight, along with Councilwoman Pro Tem of the City Council, Representative Wardine Alexander, Representative of District 7. We are excited to be with you all tonight. As you know, COVID-19 is still among us in our community. And so we've had to adapt to various ways of making sure we stay in front of you and provide information and updates on what's happening in District 7, in the neighborhoods in District 7. That being the case, we present to you tonight a rundown of some of the things we've been able to do, especially in updates. And then for the main course, we want to open it up for questions and answers. With that, I want to take the time to turn it over to Pro Tem Alex, who will provide a greeting and some opening comments.
Well, good evening. I want to thank you, Mayor Woodman, for this opportunity for the residents of District 7 to find information about what's going on in our city, to have an opportunity to have dialogue with the department directors, and just see what's being done through city services for the residents in District 7. I'm thankful to the residents for joining us tonight. I hope that you will have an opportunity to listen to the information that's being presented. There, as Mayor Woodman said, there'll be question and answer later. And so we're just excited to be here again. I thank you and your staff for what you do for the residents of assist us whenever we have problems in the district. And I know that we as residents of District 7, we always like to feel that we don't just bring the issues, we also try to help to bring the solutions. So thank you again for this opportunity.
Absolutely, and that is true. The residents of District 7 are very active, and I want to keen in on a word that Councilor Alexander said, which is words. Residents of District 7 are always participating in making sure we find ways to solve issues in District 7, which brings me to some acknowledgements. One is toward Dean Alexander. We have a great working relationship as mayor and councilor. And two is our staff. Again, my staff and her staff work very well together on your behalf. And then to you, to the neighborhood officers, the presidents, vice presidents, and secretaries of District 7, thank you for volunteering your time, energy, and commitment to make your neighborhoods better every day, as well as the small business owners in District 7 and the faith leaders in District 7 and everyone else, mainly the residents of District 7. Thank you for participating tonight. With that said, listen, y'all, we're going to jump right in. The things I say, you'll be able to see on your screen. And so I'm going to ask one of my team members now, if they could, to go ahead and pull that screen up. And we'll just jump right in and provide you some information. I have a printed copy, but you also be able to see it on your screen as well. I always want to start with the community resource representatives. There are many, many things that happen in your district where sometimes when you see it right in the immediate, you want to pick up the phone and call and or email us here at City Hall. The best people to do that too outside of Pro Tem Alexander and myself are Jasmine Thales, who is a community resource representative from that area, Harold Houston, Melanie Martin, and Andre Watson. On the screen, you can see their phone numbers, their office and cell, as well as you can see their email addresses. In the interest of time, I won't read each one of their numbers and email addresses, but you have it here. Again, Jasmine Fells, Harold Houston, Melanie Martin, and Andre Watson are your community resource representatives. If you have an issue, if you see something, if you have a question, if you have a concern, I really, really want to suggest and offer to the citizens of District 7, please take advantage of these 4 city employee phone numbers and email addresses.
Mayor, to jump in and say, we're also very delighted to have these 4 individuals to work with. They work very closely with the neighborhood leaders. Through COVID, they were always present at our neighborhood meetings. And so we're very excited in the office to also work with these individuals to represent the citizens.
Absolutely. Thank you. To Ms. Fells, to Mr. Houston, Ms. Martin Watt, and Mr. Watson. If you hadn't heard me say it in a while, thank you for the service you provide. I want to go to the next slide here. And y'all know when it comes to neighborhood revitalization, I always like to start with structures that have been demolished, because that was one of the top things you both have complained about. So our demolition projects are going on throughout all 9 districts. But for District 7, since January 2020, so in the last year alone, 158 structures have been demolished in District 7. And you see this breakdown, we, 50 of those, and private contractors did the remaining 8. And before we talk about the next thing, Councilor Alexander, you want to say anything about that?
Well, I just want to say that having grown up in the district, and we see how the district has changed over the years, and we know that blighted structures, they really make our residents, they want to see the community to look well and to be a place that we all want to live and play. So the number of structures that we're demolishing, of course, we like to go through the work and not to have to demolish those blighted structures. But I am happy to see that that the city is working to rid the neighborhoods of that blight.
That's great. All right, if we could, we're gonna go to the next slide. This is something a lot of residents mind. South Park apartment demolition. Let me start by saying that this is not city-owned property. This is owned by someone in the private sector. Let me also start by saying that this has been a long, ongoing conversation, even prior to my administration. What we did when we came in was try to engage the owner of this property to get some movement. I'm happy to tell you, after much conversation, in 2020, we finally got movement on South Park. As you see here, the Department of PEP has issued 5 demolition permits. I want you all to know that the remaining structures are not in the condition that justifies demolishing. So all of the properties on South Park will not be torn down. Again, I want to repeat to you, all will not be torn down. Some other good news is that the property owner is bearing the costs and expenses related to this demolition of those properties that are beyond repair on the site. As stated earlier, the site again is in private ownership. And there is currently no city lien on the properties. However, the property owner will control what happens related to the redevelopment, and the city will continue to engage the owner to ensure that the site does not continue to be an eyesore. So I know Councilwoman Alexander is excited. I know this has caught a lot of people by surprise who drive by it every day and is wondering what was going to happen, and all of a sudden you're actually seeing some movement. So
yes, I'm very excited. I can't tell you how this makes me feel to see this demolition get started. This property has been blighted, has been an eyesore for quite a long time, and driving through it, it always gives you angst, and you want to see how we can make our city to look better. The office started receiving calls today about the fact that the demolition had begun, so I'm very thankful for it. Just this summer, I want to thank Mr. Ravel and Ms. Dubose, who is for that area. We were actually on site and talked about, based on residents' comments about the area and asking what's going to be done about South Park. So I want to thank you, the staff, and everyone that worked to get this demolition started. Thank you.
And speaking of code and code enforcement, if you go to the next slide, I want to talk about housing code inspections. Council Wardine Alexander office, or while she's in the grocery store, or while she's just driving through the district, or visiting the school, or visiting the church, or just simply walking in a neighborhood district, someone will come up to her and say, hey, what's going on with the particular neighbor's house that we believe is in violation of a housing code? Something's on the front porch, in the front yard, in the backyard that is in violation of our housing code and what's supposed to or not supposed to be there. So I'm happy to tell you just in 1 year, y'all, just in 1 year in District 7, literally over 1,500 housing code inspections have been conducted. And so that is a lot of houses for one district. I'm saying that to say the work is being done to make sure your neighbors are in compliance and are not in violation of our housing code inspection. Next slide. And Councilwoman Alexander, feel free to jump in at any time you want to add to the meeting.
Well, I do want to talk about the code enforcement
Yeah.
because we've had a lot of concerns about neighbors who are violating codes. And just recently, when you talk about how I'm approached or how people want to bring up those issues, I was just voting the other day in our special election, and one of the residents said, "Go take a look at Jesse Owens. Go take a look at Blockton Avenue." And so we are looking at each one of those structures and looking at those houses that you all have identified to us, turning those into 311 so that code inspectors can go out. And I just want to encourage citizens, you can be a voice in this as well. Report these instances to 311 and code enforcement will go out and assist. So thank you.
You know, she keeps helping me, so I'm appreciative of that. I had it in my notes. I was going to save it at the end, but it's a good time to bring it up. Shout out to Big Walt Wilson for winning his special election to be the school board president. Congratulations to you. We know you are very passionate about serving and representing the citizens of District 7. We understand you're swearing in is this at noon, if I'm correct.
That's right. We're not a high school.
So congratulations to Big Walt on your win.
Thank you.
And his election, if I'm correct, was actually certified.
It was certified today, so he's the official winner.
Congratulations again.
Yes.
So jumping back into code inspections, et cetera, we want to let the residents know an update. For condemnation cases, 24 structures have been condemned and identified for demolition in District 7. As you see, you have a breakdown neighborhood. I would say the most egregious or highest are in Oakwood Place for 5 and Germania Park for 4. But it seems to be a little bit more, I guess, under control in other neighborhoods with 1 to max 2. Continuing along code enforcement, I want to share some things around zoning enforcement cases. And Councilwoman and Pro Tem Alexander may want to add something to this. Currently, there are 41 active zoning enforcement cases with 46 closed cases in District 7. These are cases with violations such as the business use of residential property. So I think you all may know them as shade tree mechanics, etc. Again, if you see something like that, call the resource representative or call Councilwoman Pro Tem Alexander's office or call our office. Other violations include outside storage, home occupation violations, fence violations, and the one we all hate to see, knocking vehicles right in front of the house, on the street, or in the front yard. You want to add anything?
Yes, I do want to say, and I want to also piggyback on what was said about the condemnation cases. The residents in District 7 have been very patient, and they've been very willing to work with the city as we go through and finding these cases, demolishing these homes, as well as looking at the zoning enforcement. What we miss now is the opportunity. We don't have a chance to meet physically with the residents so they can bring these concerns to our neighborhood meetings every month. And mostly this is what I heard often: cars in the yard, like you said, shade tree mechanics, or people having businesses that don't meet the zoning codes. So I want to thank the residents and their diligence in reporting this and making us aware of it so that city services can take care of these issues.
So, you know, I think we got to have real moments with the residents. 2020 threw everybody a curveball, not just for our health and safety, but the disconnect. Part of that disconnection was not allowed to have monthly neighborhood meetings and having to find creative ways to engage. And I imagine some of that disconnect created some frustration or other ways of saying, you know, I need the city to respond to this. What we're saying is not just this town hall meeting, but Pro Tem Alexander has created ways of using phone and WebEx and Zoom and other ways to engage. But don't let not having a monthly meeting stop you from calling or emailing us when you see something. Let us know, because I'm still working on it.
And I do want to thank those neighborhood presidents who have taken the leadership to start using Zoom and the conference calls as a means for us to stay connected and to be able to listen to the citizens. I want to thank council PIO staff who have also led a training, and as well as themselves led a training for District 7 neighborhood leaders so that they could be more familiar with the technology.
Absolutely.
So we're moving along, trying to be sure we stay connected.
Absolutely. So going to the next slide, you all see here lead abatements. We talk about removing the blighted structure, and then that sometimes creates another problem of lots. And so there are many, many lots. I know we have talked about this in previous town hall meetings in District 7. I think this slide serves a purpose to just to let you know the sheer volume in 1 year, from January 1 of 2020 to December 31st of 2020, the number of lots cut only in District 7, which was well over 1,100 of them. And as you see, 230 were cut by private contract, by contract services. And I just got my lapel mic, so let me put that on as I talk. I want to say they were by private city lots. So in this topic, I think one of the things we want to do is jump the curve. When we talk about 2020 and the coronavirus, there are a lot of challenges presented. Then there's some things that made to our ability to cut more lots in 2021. Cool. I was verifying with our tech team to make sure you all can still hear me. One of the advantages of 2021 is some additional resources because to engage a lot in 2020. Therefore, we look to put more resources in making sure we can get to more lots in District 7. Again, I know this is one of the frequent calls we get.
This is one of the most frequent calls that we do receive where residents are concerned about some residents who are sandwiched in between on left and right for lots that are vacant, and they're still trying to maintain their property. So I am happy to see that we have are going to put some more resources into that, hopefully, for this next year as we move forward, so that we don't have the nuisance and people have to feel that we're on some type of a schedule, so people will expect and anticipate those lots will be clean. Because when you walk out and you've taken care of your property, you want to look to your right and your left, and you want to feel safe. You want to feel comfortable. You want to enjoy your own home. And so one of the things we're working with in District 7, we're going to be series on how to take care of your property in the event that you're no longer there to maintain your property when you pass away. And so that you're sure that your property will, your family will be able to regulate your property and it won't become a nuisance to them.
Set me up. I got to because I wanted to say something about
Yes.
I'll call on that.
That's all right. But no, and you're right. We have to be honest about what goes on because we don't want like people when they leave the landlord the keys. That's something people say. So we also want to take care of our own.
Right.
And so again, this is typically what happens to us. You don't have clear accession of your property, and again, when you pass, then sometimes people just leave that property, or you have homeowners who just don't take care of the property once they leave it.
And I always have to remind y'all, the city of Birmingham legally just cannot go on private property and cut a lot. I want to repeat that. The city of Birmingham, when you call us, is not allowed just to go on private property and cut a lot, because that would be illegal. And it's on the screen here, there are 685 active in the weed bill. The weed bill is a process where our team is assessment, then it has to go before council. And all of this comes from state law allowing us to do that. That is not the fastest process. And then even when you clear that process and then finally get it to a contractor and they cut the lot, it's only for that one time. Meaning when that grass grows back, guess what? Legally, we still just go back on that same property. We have to go through the same process again. So unfortunately, by state law that is really strong about protecting property, a slum landlord or a vacant landlord, they still have a minimum equal rights or more rights than the person who lives to the left and right, as Councilwoman said, and are doing their part, but sandwiched in by somebody who
And I do also want to thank your legal department. I know that you had some instances where you were able to go after those landlords or after those owners. And sometimes we've seen in District 7, people will do just enough to keep the code enforcers or to keep that enforcement from happening. And so so that we can go and make the district look better.
Absolutely. So shout out to Nicole King, city attorney, and her leasing and abatement team, who's been aggressive about going after, and will continue to go after slum landlords who are not doing their part. The next slide I have is illegal dumping. And this is something, again, Councilwoman Alexander always gets a lot of calls about. Cases of illegal dumping that were resolved in 2020, in 12 months, January 1, 2020 to December 31st of 2020, or 123, where you all called in, or we saw it, identified it, investigated it, and actually cleaned it up. 365 days a year, I could be wrong, but it looks like almost 1/3, something of that nature. Y'all, do me a favor. If you know of areas where this continues to go on, the neighborhood watch program, find a way to have some type of plan where you always have one of your neighbors on watch, ready with that camera phone, ready with that, ready with whatever recording device you have, and catch that person that's either coming into your neighborhood to do this on that particular street, alley, or your own neighbor that's being nasty. Either way it goes, once you record it, you do not have to engage that person. We simply ask that you turn it in to us or turn it in to the magistrate so we know so we can help bring justice on behalf of the citizens and your neighborhood. Make sure this person's held accountable. Anything you want to say?
Yes, I want to say this is, again, one of the issues that we are called about most in the office, where people are trying to maintain their property. They have an alley behind them, or they have an area close to them where people are illegally dumping. And so we do ask you to call either to 311 or call to our office so that we can help to monitor that and to report that as is needed. But this is very frustrating. I just had a resident today, Ms. Williams, to call, and she's constantly having this issue with illegal dumping. So we're going to turn that over to the Department of Public Works and get that assistance to see, are there things we can do? And I think your next slide is going to talk a little bit about some programs that are put in to try to educate about illegal, try to sustain, because it frustrates me when we just pick it up and then the resident turns right around and they have that issue again because people are continuing to dump.
Yeah, it's not cool, it's not fair, and it's wrong, and it's illegal. Speaking of illegal dumping, just some additional information on the next slide. To report an illegal dumping site, as you see here, please call 311 or Public Works Dispatch at 205-254-6344. We also want you to know, for those who have things they need to remove from their home, there's a place for y'all guys that's free of charge, no questions asked. The city has large dumpsters in 4 areas of the city for District 7 residents. Again, you may use the one at 501 6th Avenue South and 1044 Avenue W. These are city public sites that you can legally take things to instead of dumping them in your own neighborhood, which is illegal. Also, the Department of Public Works crews have collected more than 26 tons of garbage. Now, tons is an interesting word. It's not something Councilwoman Alexander, I use every day. Just know it's a lot of garbage, it's a lot of litter, and illegally dumped trash in Birmingham's western area alone, which includes District 7, on Saturday, January 30th. So in one day, 26 tons. Y'all, let's not be nasty. Let's not be illegal. Councilwoman Alexander and I can't your neighborhood than you do. And we can't blame everything on outsiders. Mm-hmm. And I know, for the record, let me be grateful and say thank you to the people that take pride. Councilwoman Alexander, I'm grateful for the people that volunteer their time, have litter crews, go out there and put gloves on your sticks and your trash, and you get it up yourself. But you can't be outnumbered by people who don't care, or people that continue to litter and illegal dump. So take pride where you live. I may be speaking to the choir, but we're grateful to the choir, so thank you.
And I want to say at this time, I'm also grateful to the neighborhood leaders and the individuals. We've had numerous cleanup campaigns in District 7, where again, we're trying to be the solution to the problems that we're seeing. So I want to thank the residents and again, those neighborhood leaders for taking that charge and again, wanting to do what they can neighborhood clean. I also want to remind us some of our responsibility is when we have a contractor that comes in and does work for our home. If they leave all of that material there as a part of their finishing that work, that is illegal dumping. So we want to be reminded of the responsibility we have when we have contractors come in and do work or cut down trees and those type things. We don't want to be a part of the problem.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So going to the next slide, this is a very quick slide. We have captains of our precinct who are actually on the call. So when we get into our Q&A, you'll be hearing from one of them. District 7 is split between South Precinct, which is Precinct Captain Greenberg, and West Precinct Captain Dole. So they'll be on the phone if you have any questions related to policing and crime. Now, speaking of the next slide, BPD has several programs to reduce crime. One of them, if you could, so they can see the next slide. One of them is a citywide traffic task force, which is responsible for making sure the call Councilwoman Alexander's office gets around those who will continue to speed, etc., that we catch some of those people in violation. In addition to that, also since its inception in 2020, stated earlier about Ms. King's office in the legal department, the city's drug nuisance abatement received 123 reports of nuisance properties. They've investigated 111 of those 123, and they've been able to create 12 nuisance cases where 2 of those tenants have been removed, and cases against 5 landlord owners will be filed in Jefferson County Circuit Court. So we are being very aggressive about drug nuisance abatements. If you know of a home or a house where there is illegal drug activity, let us know, and we will be glad to not only investigate, but ideally get this case in front of the courts and have these people evicted, because no one should have to live next to where there is drug nuisance and drugs are being sold. It's unfair, it is wrong, and by the way, if you need to be reminded, it's illegal. You want to add anything to this?
No, I think you've done a very good job. Again, I want to thank Attorney King and the drug nuisance abatement team for their diligence in leading that charge since they've had that opportunity to go after those programs, again, as a program to reduce crime.
Cool. So the next slide I want to talk to y'all about is about an app that the Birmingham Police Department has. So check this out, y'all. We all know District 7 from a landmass standpoint is one of the biggest.
Yes.
We also have major thoroughfares that go through your district, including back streets. Sometimes people just speed too much. So we know District 7 has its share of people that call in about speeders. We want you all to use the Birmingham Police Department app today. And as you can see it on here, it's easy to download. For those who don't have the app, you can email to bpdsuggestions@birminghamal.gov. But this app allows us to get information quicker. And we're not saying that the phone doesn't work, still call us. We're not saying email doesn't work, it still works. So when you see us in person or you see an officer flag them down. But what we are saying from a communication standpoint, receiving information standpoint, and correspondence standpoint, this app is another tool in the toolbox that not only you all can get information, but you all can share information with us. So I really want to suggest to you, download the app. What's the next slide? I want to talk about the development of vacant properties. Community development is currently devising a strategy, ideally to develop new housing on vacant properties. I call it going vertical with single family homes on these properties. For now, what we want you to do is to call 205-254-2309. This is led under the direction of Chris Hatcher, who's also will be on the call to address anything related to this topic in our question and answer session? Do you want to add anything?
Well, I just want to say I am very encouraged to see the development of the strategy again to develop new housing. We have some areas in Oakwood Place, especially Eureka. Sometimes there's just one house left on the street. And so to see that we're going to be able to encourage community development and encourage homes and we go vertical, that would be very exciting. I know the residents over in that area would be very thankful for that.
Absolutely. I think this is very critical. We find ways to, y'all heard me say it. Snack a tooth block is not good. It's not just removing blight, but it's not sustainable for the city of Birmingham to be in the grass cutting business. Again, y'all heard me say that too. It's ways with partnering with private sector, developers, etc., to go vertical with these single family homes. And, everything can't be affordable home. Everything can't be workable home. You have to be in market rate housing as well, because the residents that currently live there deserve for their property value to increase as well. So with that said, take advantage of that number. But you all know not 2020, but 19 and 18, we talked about home improvement plan.
Yes.
Unfortunately, due to COVID-19, that program was delayed some, and they did not receive that home repairs at the appropriate time. Well, we are happy to say the program will start back May 21st. District 7 alone, 26 applicants were approved for their home improvement program and repairs, for a total about close to $400. If you could go to the next slide. This is a breakdown of the neighborhoods of the critical repair program. As you see, Central Park received most of the love for District 7, and West End Manor came in second. If you can go to the next slide, we want to dive into something else critical, surface. So here's a high level from a dollar standpoint, and then we'll break down the next slide, streets, etc. Over the course of the last year, not 3, just 1 year, all of 2020, in District 7, about 2.6 miles of streets segments were resurfaced, close to $640,000. You could go to the next slide. The street resurfacing program for 2021 will be about 2.2 miles and over $500,000. Now we want to talk about the streets that have been paved and the streets that will be repaved. So the next slide, as you can see, may not be the biggest in wording, but the following District 7 resurfaced in the last 3 years. Well, I could be wrong, that's a lot of streets. There's a lot more paving to do, but I got to give credit to Councilwoman Alexander, who has always made priority, has always made sure in the budget every year we got to our commitment in this third year, minimum of $10 million. And over the last 3 years for the entire city, we've done about $28 million total. And District 7 has had its fair share of streets paved, as you can see here. We're talking about Jefferson Avenue, Winona Drive, and Spalding, and 30th Street, and 24th Street. Each scooter, we don't like those trucks though, because they keep messing it up.
Right.
And Tom Martin, Terrence Arn Avenue are Venice Road. So, and I'm missing a whole lot of others, but they're right here for you all to see. Before Councilwoman Alexander speaks, to go to the next slide, to talk about streets that will be resurfaced in summer of 21, which is the next slide. The streets planned for resurfacing in the next 2 years. So as you can see here, there's more work to do. We already have identified the streets. We're committed to the additional funding for this upcoming budget that will start July 1. And these streets that will be repaired in 2021. And then we already have planned for the next 2 years. As you can see, that's a lot of streets. Turning over.
Well, I just want to say again, a number one complaint or concern that we have coming into the office are the way the roads and asking for road improvements and paving in District 7. I travel those roads every day, so I can't tell you how ecstatic I was when we see one of those at the top of the list is Jefferson Avenue from 41st to 31st Street. There are times when I rode down Jefferson Avenue, I wanted to pick my car up and take it with me because I just didn't want to go over those bumpy roads. So again, residents have been patient. I've had people to call the office and say, I've lived on the street that hadn't been paved in over 40 years. So I'm glad to see that these projects in the 3-5 year span, we are constantly working and getting to those streets. So I'm thankful to for the budget and also for the counselors and the colleagues who voted to approve so that we can get this street improvement to us. One thing I do want to note also as the utility chair, I do try to work with our utilities. One constant complaint is them coming in and patching up or giving problems to our streets to do repairs and leaving it in a way that it wasn't when they first got there. And so most of those utilities, all of them do work with us. So please call in, talk to us about it, and we will go straight to the utility and ask them, let's go back and make our streets look better.
So y'all heard what she just said. Tell the utility companies put some on that.
All right.
So moving on to the next slide, everybody. We talk about another issue you get calls about.
Mm-hmm.
And no, look, listen, potholes. Again, so just for residents in District 7, in 1 year, 1,300 plus potholes are repaired and are fixed or patched. It's self-explanatory.
Mm-hmm.
Potholes don't stop. So again, if you see one, if you feel one, if a pothole is disrespecting your tire rim, please let us know. If you have a picture, if you have an address, an intersection, let us know so we can repair it right away.
I just got a call tonight from a resident right on Sydney and Venus. We called it in 311. Damaged the car and hit a pothole last night. So again, call in, let us know. And if you're passing that street often and you see some type of repairs needed, call that into 311 or call that to the council office. It won't cause harm or cause anyone to have their car in the need to be repaired or become.
Deputy Director, Mr. Yates, if you can hear us.
Sydney, and it's, yes, right going towards Lakeshore. There's a major over there that calls some, but I did call in 311, but they're listening. If they could get the crew out there, we'd appreciate it.
If you can have a team investigate that, and if it's in our city limits, please make sure we do something to repair it.
Thank you.
So we want to get some updates on the Department of Transportation. Just a FYI, our transportation director, Mr. James Fowler, is on the call. If there are any additional questions you have in Q&A, transportation issues, traffic lights, etc., traffic calming. But we do want you to know and give an update. I know this is something Councilwoman Pro Tem Alexander and the residents are excited about. There will be a new traffic signal at Wilson Road and Rutledge Avenue. Next steps are for Alabama Power to provide power, and then flash mode for 1 week, and then ideally we want to do operation.
Just got a call the other day. Someone passed by the area and they saw the lights up and they were static. I know I want to give a shout out to the neighborhood president, Mr. Wilson, on Wilson Road, in the Grisilla Heights neighborhood. They have really worked diligently to get this traffic signal, and I want to thank Director Fowler for working with that neighborhood and get them. And so we've just been waiting for those lights to start flashing. So thank you all. And again, thank those residents. Thank Mr. Wilson and his neighborhood for really wanting to be diligent about making that a safe spot right there.
Absolutely. So again, so we're at that moment of our, I guess, town hall where we do Let's Talk, where we have questions and then there are answers. There's something Councilwoman Pro Tem Alexander and I can ask. We'll answer these questions. We have capital projects, we have Department of Works, we have PEP, Transportation, Community Development, and Birmingham Police Department ready and available to address these questions, and will be led by Civil Scarborough, who will facilitate. I do want to also note that because we had technical difficulties at the beginning, we are running a little behind. We try to respect your time and get you in and out in an hour. But I'm looking at the clock, we'll probably go over a little 7 today to make sure we get as many questions in as possible. So with that, I'll give it to Ms. Silva she'll facilitate and quarterback us through this next portion.
Thank you so much, Mayor. And that is absolutely huge with that signal light on Will. That was one of the first concerns that we received many, many years ago. So it is wonderful that it's being taken care of. The first question of the evening, and it's a statement with it as well. It says, AlDOT has approved paving between 41st and 31st on Jefferson Avenue. Are there any other updates that can be provided about this area?
I'm going to yield. I'm going to turn it over to our transportation, Mr. James Fowler. Maybe he's in a position to answer that question.
Yes, hey, good evening. And again, my name is James Fowler, and I serve as the director of the Birmingham Department of Transportation. And that's a great question about Jefferson Avenue. So that is a part of the upcoming paving that we'll be doing this summer. So that's a part of one of the two contracts that we'll be initiating this summer. And then one clarification, as we move into the fall, there should actually be some additional streets that get programmed for resurfacing as well. So as we talk about the streets over the next 2 years. So, but Jefferson Avenue should occur this summer.
James, we can't quite hear you, so we're going to go on to the next question at this time, and we'll circle back to you. The next question is, there is an uptick on residents who are not bagging trash appropriately. We address this.
So, again, what I want to do is let some of the professionals talk. We have Mr. Josh Yates, who is the Deputy Director of Public Works, on this call with us. I want to yield the floor to see if he want to give us any update on how the city and or citizens and neighbors can be more aggressive and or better in communication on making sure our citizens and neighbors, how they engage in on their trash. Mr. Yates.
Thank you, sir. Thank you all for having me on here today. First of all, I'd just like to say my name again is Josh Yates. I serve as the Deputy Director. Thank you for introducing me. And I'd just like to say the bagging the leaves is certainly something that helps our crews out. We have some very dedicated, loyal crews out there trying their hardest to get as much off the right of way as we possibly can. The more you bag your leaves, the easier it is for our crews to grab and go. We appreciate anything you can do there to bag your leaves.
Thank you, Mr. Yates.
Thank you.
Thank you, Josh and Mayor, and thank you, DPW. We want everybody having a few internet problems that's causing the audio issues, but we are working to get those corrected. And before we go to the next question, as mentioned earlier, District 7 is one of our larger districts. So we want to say hello and good evening to Central Park and East Brownville, Garden Highlands, Germania Park, Vercelli Heights, Green Acres. We have many, many more, and we just want you to know how glad we are that you are joining us this evening. The next question is, have the sidewalks in Mountain View or the drainage in Pine Ridge issues been fully addressed and or rectified?
So I'm going to turn this question over to our Director of PEP, Mr. Edwin Revelle. I know the drainage issues he can speak to first. I would say off the top of my head on the sidewalk issues, Mr. Revelle, if you are aware of that, maybe one of the team members, Mr. Niesbell, over capital projects, and or Mr. Fowler can speak to that. So as of for now, Mr. Revelle.
Thank you, Mayor. My name is Edwin Revelle. I serve as the Director of the Department of Planning, Engineering, and Permits. Am I being heard? Okay. Thank you, Mayor. To answer the question, I know that we've sent teams out, but I need to get a more detailed update from teams, but we have responded because that has been a request before. So what I would like to do, if possible, is give my number so that whoever provided that question could actually reach out to me after I get that update from my team. But we have been to the site. We have done some investigations. I just need to know more clearly where we stand with the matter. My number is 205-254-2336, 205-254-2336. We are on it, and we're dealing with it, but I'd really like to have an opportunity to follow up and give a detailed answer.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ravel. As we move on to the next question, someone would like to know, what is the status of the Oxmoor Valley Community Center parking lot expansion?
I only said, because I'm trying to see which team member can answer that question. I want to turn that question over to Chris Hatcher, actually. Over. Capital Project, thank you. I got team members here helping me out to make sure that we get your question answered. So Denise Bell, who's the Director of Capital Projects, is on the call that can answer that question.
Thank you, Eric. And good evening. Denise Bell. I serve as the Director of Capital Projects Division. We are currently in the design phase for the Oxmoor parking lot expansion, and we expect to receive a reviewable plan design next month.
Oakwood Place in Oxmoor Valley. We're so glad you're with us tonight. The next one is basically just a concern from citizens in Roosevelt City, and they would just like to know things, including abandoned homes, illegal dumping in areas that they feel are somewhat neglected. And that's for maybe you, Mayor, or Councilor.
Well, actually, I live in the Roosevelt City area, so I'm aware of some of the frustration of the residents. And when you have the feeling that where you're living, those areas are being neglected. Just the latter part of this year, we went through a ride-along with some of your staff, Mayor Woodfin. They turned those items into 311, also for code enforcement. So I know that they're looking at those eyesores and they're looking at those hot spots, and they're working to rid us of that blight. I don't want anyone to feel that you are being overlooked or we're not taking your problems, because I see those as well. And I know it can be very frustrating. Again, you want to live, eat, work, and play in a place that is clean and looks good too. So I do want to just be sure that the residents know that in those cases, most of those issues have been brought to the attention of Public Works, again, code enforcement, and to work on those issues. Most recently, we also had some concern about the Roosevelt Park and the Recreation Center. And I do know that the Park Board has worked on that, and they've also addressed those items, and they're looking into costing those out to make those changes.
So let me just say this. This is only adding to what she has, Councilwoman Pro Tem Alexander has said. I have to acknowledge that the work we do, people don't always feel it. And so in some shape or form, I try to be a group. The work we're doing, whether it's decreasing crime and or removing some of these things that people want removed, everyone can't see it or feel it because there's so many blocks and so many streets in the biggest city in the state. What I do want you to know is we do care. What I do want you to know is that we are concerned about every block, about every street and every neighborhood. We're also acknowledging that with limited resources, we can't get to every block and every street in 1 year, or the second year, or even the third year, because as you see earlier with the information given, we're literally in time. In 1 year, if we just wanted to do all the streets in the city of Birmingham, that would be $50 million. It would be such a high price if we wanted to tear down every house at one time. That's beyond repair. And so we can't do everything at one time. What I can tell you, there's a plan in place, as you've seen with street painting, no different than there is with removing blight. And the goal is, with more resources to come, we can execute on our plan to get rid of more blight, etc. And so Roosevelt is not forgotten. It is a concern. Neighborhoods are. And if there's something we can do to address, expedite, or jump the process, we'll do. And trust me, because the counselor lives there, so she brings those issues to me. And I want you to keep bringing them back on your neighbors so we can address them.
Well, thank you. We appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mayor and Councilor. We do see that there are several questions on here in reference to illegal dumping and illegal dump sites. And we want everybody to know that you can call 311 or you can call the public dispatch. That number is 205-254-6344. Again, that's 205-254-6344. The next question is one that we get quite to several of our citizens. And the question is, what can be done about homes with overgrown lots next to our elderly?
I'll give you the legal answer first. Unfortunately, in the state of Alabama, the city of Birmingham cannot just go on private property and cut the lot. That was created down in Montgomery. It allows the city of Birmingham to start a process that eventually requires city council approval, and then by either city employees or by private contractors, we then are allowed to cut the lot. But that's the fastest process. What I will tell you is that I promise you, if there's a home that is abandoned because there is an absentee landlord, and if the neighbors decide to rally and descend upon this house, cut this overgrown lot to protect their elderly neighbor, I promise you, police won't engage. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you.
Is that sufficient?
I think that's sufficient. Thank you. Yes.
Indeed, it is sufficient. This question is, what can be done about dealing with vagrants living in abandoned homes?
Oh, just call us so we can move them out. I don't think that's appropriate. I think that's actually a safety hazard for them living in a house that is vacant, that doesn't have water, that doesn't have power or anything else they need. That's a danger and that's illegal. And I think I've seen this before. And when those residents call, when that neighborhood leader calls, when that city council calls, this is something we actively participate in, combination of the mayor's office, along with BPD and any other departments. And we first try soft approach, conversation. Listen, you can't be here. Is there anything we can do on your behalf, etc.? But you can't be here. And if that doesn't work, we elevate our engagement to make sure that person or persons are removed. Please let us know.
Thank you so much, sir. We also want to thank neighbors and citizens in Raleigh, Trevelick, Roosevelt City, Tarpley City, West Brownville, West End Manor, and West Goldwire who are with us this evening. The next question is, what can be done about or inoperable vehicles in front of homes?
Again, this is a conversation I had with my chief of operations this morning. We want our code enforcement teams to continue to tag those cars. So by law, we can't just call a tow truck company and remove that car. There's an actual process. The process starts with tagging that car to remind that resident that this is illegal and they have a certain amount of time to remove the car. And if they don't, we can assist them in that removal. So as a citizen or as a neighbor who lives in a particular area, the car is abandoned or no longer moving, which has been sitting in that yard, let us know, provide that address, and we can start that process of tagging that car so we can get to removal if the resident doesn't want to voluntarily remove it themselves. On a situation like that, it was pretty simple. You have to let us know.
Thank you so much, sir. And we do know that recycling is done on the first Wednesday of the month. This question is there any possibility of increasing recycling pickups to at least twice a month?
I think we can get there, but to be totally like just candid with you, I think one of the biggest things we have to do, y'all, is education component. It's not necessarily a communication strategy around recycling. Recycling is a habit for me. What I mean by that is, if I am 40 years of age, or 50 years of age, or 70 years of age, and I've been engaging my trash a certain way all my life, then it's not the easiest thing to switch to just start recycling. And so when I say habit forming or education, I think community what we must do. And I've said this before, everybody said it, not me. We can and other people and engage young people, because if you want engagement and habit forming and I guess change behavior related to how we engage trash and switch to recycling, it's the youngest generation in the household that can lead that effort, because they're going to be more open and I guess accepting to new ways of engaging. That being the case, the percentage of residents who live in District 7 who recycle is very low today. And I think if behavior changes and more residents want to engage, and in return, we can increase the number of days we pick up recycling. You want to add anything?
Well, I just want to say I agree with what you're saying. It's about a matter of education and just habit to know the benefit as well of recycling. I probably know who asked that question. I've got a resident over there in Oxmoor Valley who's very, very strong in wanting to be sure we all recycle, and just sent me a note the other day and said, don't forget Wednesday is recycling day. So I thank residents like Joey and other residents who are really working diligently, and we'll just try to be sure that the word gets out there and everyone sees the benefit of recycling.
Absolutely. Recycling is a long play. I wish it's something we can change overnight. But there's been case studies of other cities that really mastered this. It didn't happen overnight. It took some time. Again, you know, I'm going to put this up there, but just happens. Some habits are good, some habits are bad. Those who want to put their garbage in the trash and not recycle, it's actually nothing wrong with that. Because you got others, unfortunately, who just want to put their trash in the street. So that's a bad habit. So I think this is something we have to continue to talk about. This is definitely something for our partnership and a way where we get creative with our donors and workers, because I think they will be the ones that will lead this effort that we want behavior to change.
Thank you so much, sir. And thank you to DPW that is really getting dozens of lots cut every single day, especially our horticulture and vegetation team. And the next question is, what is the process for getting the vegetation cut in the alleys as well?
So I'm going to turn this question over to our Department of Public Works again. And again, on the call is Deputy Director Josh Yates.
Thank you, Mayor. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Miss Danita Ryan is also on the phone as well. She heads up our, as Deputy Director of Public Works and Horticulture, she also heads up the grass cutting and horticulture crews. They do quite a number of cutting every single day. Lots cut every single day, right-of-ways cut every day. They work hands down one of the hardest crews out there in the city. Miss Danita, feel free to speak up here if she might have dropped off the line. I apologize. But feel free to call 311. 311, we really want to push for all our work requests. We can track those requests in 311, see the status of them, put them to the right district and area so that we can make sure it gets cut. Please utilize 311. If you can't, call our dispatch, and we'll be glad to also address it that way as well. Keep in mind, anything in the public right-of-way is something that we're able to cut, but on private property, we cannot go on without following the process that the mayor mentioned a little earlier.
Thank you, Josh.
And I do want to thank Ms. Yates. She went on a ride along with us last year, gave us a whole tutorial on how to take care of that crepe myrtle over there on Park Avenue. So she's serious about our horticulture and keeping us looking good over there. So thank you. And again, we love the residents who are trying to ensure that we keep our neighborhoods clean.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Councilor and Mayor. We like that excitement. And along with what Josh said a minute ago, that DPW dispatch number is 254-6344. Again, that number is 254-6344. You can report items such as that, illegal dumping, and so forth. As we mentioned earlier, that 123 cases have been completed this year. So we do have our team standing by to hear from everyone. One area that we didn't get a lot of questions about tonight were crime questions, and we don't have one on the board, and just wanted to know, what are your thoughts or BPD's thoughts in reference to crime concerns in the area?
So again, I know we've introduced our two captains of over the precincts of West and South, but our deputy chief, Ron Sellers, is on this call. And I think he is doing an amazing job in working with the other leadership as well as his captain. So I'll be honored for him to say and provide any update he would like to. So at the time, Deputy Chief Ron Sellers, BPD.
Hey, Mayor, how is everybody tonight? My name is Ron Sellers, currently serving as a Deputy Chief of Patrol Division. Wait a minute, sorry. Let me get my video started there. There we go. Apologize. I forgot to start on video. So currently serving as the Deputy Chief of Patrol Division. We're working very hard to come up with some issues, some solutions for quality of life issues. We were just having a conversation with Chief Smith and Chief Davenport about that earlier. We're hearing more and more citizens' complaints on or concerns on abandoned cars. We just talked about that just a second ago, and we're hearing more citizens' concerns on parking in the front yards. So we've talked about doing some more directed enforcements to where we're going to focus solely on abandoned cars one day or for 1 week to try to get as many abandoned cars towed out of neighborhoods as we can. And then try to focus a day or a week on parking in the front yards to try to get the word out as much as we can to keep people from parking in their front yards. As far as violent crime and shooting in the area, we've talked about this before a little bit, that we've developed two task forces that have been pretty successful so far. One is our discharging task force. So we've got one officer from every precinct that's assigned to a discharging task force. So they're solely investigating calls of dischargings. We also put together a violent crime task force, some extra officers on some overtime that the mayor was able to find some money for us on. So that's 10 officers and a sergeant working every weekend in our areas where we're having a little bit more dischargings at with hits and more violent crime at. So our CompStat model that we've put in place helps us tremendously on putting officers on the dots. So every day during our CompStat meeting, we are talking about every property crime, every violent crime that's happened every day in the city. There's not a crime that's reported that we don't talk about every day. So we're able to quickly deploy our resources in those areas to try to disrupt that crime before it happens. We're doing a pretty good job so far. West Precinct numbers right now, we are down 15.4% overall total crime reduction in West Precinct. So we started off the year pretty good in West Precinct. So far, we're doing a good job over there. We've got a brand new captain over there in Angie Doyle, who's on the call today if somebody needs to ask her a question or hear from her on what she plans on doing in West Precinct or changing. But we're pretty proud of where our crime stats are right now at the beginning of this year.
Thank you, Deputy Chief.
And thank you, Mayor. And we are down to our last question of the evening. And basically it's a statement, and it says, what about placing some type of speed deterrence on Park Avenue between 43rd Street down to the West Brownsville area? There are no stop signs or traffic lights there at all. What can be done?
So I'm going to turn this question over to our head of the Department of Transportation, Mr. Fowler. And Mr. Fowler, that's Park Ave between 43rd
Down West Brownsville.
down in the West Brownsville area. I'm not sure you're familiar or have a visual in your head, but I'll allow you to respond to that question related to no stop signs or traffic lights, et cetera.
Yes, sir. That's a great question, and it's a similar question to we get across the city. So I do actually recommend for folks that have similar questions to that, I've noted that one, so we will investigate that. But please do reach out to our office, and our phone number is 205-254-2450. That's to the Department of Transportation, and ask for help in evaluating speeding concerns. We partner closely with the police department, but we actually have started a traffic calming process, and it's been a very popular topic. So we actually have a long list of streets that we're investigating. So while it's going to take us a while to work through all of those streets, we are working through it and have had some success in areas. So I've noted this one, but I encourage whoever asked that question also to please follow up and just make sure that we have your contact information so that we can stay in touch with you. One more time, that phone number is 205-254-2450. Thank you.
Thank you so much, James. Again, 254-2450 is the number. And Mayor, I will turn it back over to you for final thoughts of the evening.
Right. Well, a couple notes. Ladies first is usually the call of the day. I think it's important that as Councilwoman and Madam Pro Tem Alexander represents District 7, she gets the last word in closing us out. So I'll go first. I want to, start with thank yous. I want to thank the entire team behind the scenes for allowing us to have this town hall meeting with you. We have had some challenges related to technical difficulties. So for those who could either not hear us or it was choppy, please forgive us. I think when we end, they'll give you a number and or email address to be provided to you if there's something missed or needs to be repeated and or shared. That being the case, people behind the scenes all come together, mayor's office side and city council side, to make sure that we're able to have this forum with you tonight. Speaking of, I want to also acknowledge again the neighborhood officers, presidents, vice presidents, secretaries, acknowledge the faith leaders, the small business owners in District 7, and all the residents, especially for those who made yourselves available tonight and had time to participate. Thank you. And then the last thank you is to Councilwoman Pro Tem Alexander for your friendship, for your leadership, and for being a passionate advocate on behalf of the residents of District 7. You all should know she does not hesitate to call or text me. And you all should also know that I immediately respond because I just have to, because that's how I respond. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
With that being said, please be reminded that COVID-19 is still real. We're all not vaccinated yet, so I want you to be careful. For those who are eligible for those, classifications, please go ahead and sign up and take it. The quicker we all get it, the faster we can get back to our way of life. 2020 presented many challenges to all of us, but we're looking forward to 2021. With that said, hope you have a good night. Please remain safe. Look forward to our next time together. With that, Madam Pro Tem Alexander.
Well, thank you, Mayor Whitman. Thank you for those kind words. I do appreciate working with you and working with your team. I just would be remiss if I did not note Mrs. Izola Hall is the Chief of Staff. She keeps that District 7 office running, so I want to thank her for the work she does. And I want to thank all of your staff for working with us on behalf of the residents of District 7. And I want to say thank you to the residents of District 7, allowing this opportunity to serve, to joining in with us this evening. I thank you for your patience and your diligence. Again, in District 7, we don't always come with issues. We pride ourselves in coming with solutions. So I thank you, Mayor Whitman, and your team for helping us to come with those solutions. If we don't get it right the first time, we'll try it again, and we're just going to keep on moving until D7 is a place that we all want to live, work, play in, and enjoy. Thank you.
Listen, everybody. Thank you to all the presenters and the department heads for answering those questions as well. Thank you so much. With that said, everybody have a good night. Be safe.